are live. Woohoo! All right. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of Supermom Sessions. And today I have one of my favorite people, Yvette Baker. Let me tell you guys a little bit about her. And then I'll have her also tell us a little intro of herself. So let me pull this up for you guys. All right. Well, going back, way back, Yvette and I became fast friends in high school when we both played the same unpopular instrument, the French horn, in the marching band. And I'm sure we drove our high school band director nuts with our constant snickering and joke cracking, sitting next to each other behind giant brass instruments. It solidified our friendship that has endured through the years. The thing that inspires me the most about Yvette is how she travels with her family. With her husband and 3 kids, they've traversed the globe, seeing and staying in some of the coolest places in other countries through home exchanges and all kinds of other cool ways that she's going to tell us about. Yvette has taken her kids while young to many places that a lot of families think are the someday when the kids are older type of places, which is what I love. She makes it happen. She lives her some days today. They did a long-time rental in Hawaii for, I think it was a year, maybe more.
Yeah, a little over a year.
Okay. And they've done countless long flights with toddlers. I know a lot of us moms are really scared of that. She's got it down. So she's going to share all her secrets with us. And when they're home, they maintain their adventurous spirit and enjoy what is right around them, picking and cracking open coconuts in their front yard. When I stayed there, they were like doing that. Making it a priority to actually go to all the amazing places right nearby and often. And Yvette's fun husband, Levi, is who introduced me to the idea of going to the movie theater alone after the kids are in bed at night. How brilliant is that? My husband and I started doing that too after being inspired by them. That way Mike could go see his apocalyptical, intense drama stuff that I never wanted to watch with him. And I could go see my corny rom-coms that he didn't want to watch with me. So we each got to still do our own thing and taking turns as parents to get that me time. And it can be as easy as one parent just going to the movies after the kids are tucked in bed. Yvette is amazing at nurturing the things her kids are interested in and learning alongside them. She's smart, curious, creative, funny, and an amazing friend and an absolute super mama to her family. And she gave me one of the best pieces of advice that helped me transition from a corporate working mom to a stay-at-home mom, and even now to an entrepreneur mom that has really guided me through all the transitions. I'll share more about that in our conversation that we have today. So I can't wait for you guys all to get to know and love Yvette as much as I do. She is amazing. Welcome, welcome, Yvette. Oh, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm a little embarrassed about the intro. It's you're just too kind, but I love you to death, Brenda.
Isn't it fun to hear what all your like superpowers are from other people? Like sometimes you don't really look at yourself that way.
I've been watching your episodes and you're asking people, what are your superpowers? What are your mom's superpowers? I'm like, I don't have any mom's superpowers. I'm like very average, barely holding it together.
That's what every mom feels though.
Right,
like
I know.
we never see our own superpowers. We never realize what our own strengths are. And like to us, the thing that's our strength is the thing that is the easy thing. And so we feel like we're struggling in all this other stuff. But then the few things that are easy to us, we don't realize like that's our superpower. And so that's why I love having these conversations, because one, I like just telling you how amazing you are and hyping you and just sharing all that with other people, because it really is like not all of us are going to be amazing at everything, but the little pockets that we are amazing in is the part that somebody else might just need a couple little tweaks. So I love just having these conversations to share with other people. So now I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of some of your hobbies. Like for instance, I love how every picture when you travel, you do like your ballet jumps. So I try and do like a Brenda version of that. I cannot do a ballet jump, but I try and do some kind of like
my 12-year-old is like too old for them now too. He's like, no, it's embarrassing.
Well, you still do some like cool, it's good. I like it. It's unique. And so, yeah, tell us about your hobbies, passions, where you live, what your ages of your kids are and what they're into and what your husband does and all that kind of stuff. Just give us like a quick little rundown, so that moms can get to know their new friend.
Okay, all right. All right. So like you said, we grew up together in like small town Arizona. And my personality, it's taken me so many years to understand this about myself, but my personality is my brain craves new sights, new experiences, new adventures. So that was hard for me growing up in a little small town, and my parents were awesome, but it was not a time where families traveled around a lot. We would do road trips to see family, and that was about it. But I went to college and went to Utah, which now, that was such an exciting adventure for me. Went to law school in Washington, D.C. Now I live in South Florida in West Palm Beach. So I'm an attorney, but I don't practice full time anymore. I work as a contractor. So I have friends who have law firms. I have someone close to me who has a consulting company. So I do part time work for all these different organizations, take projects on my own time, that I'm interested in, and work really part time because I have 3 kids. I have a 12-year-old Levi, I have a 9-year-old Quintana, and then our baby caboose, Soren, he's 2. So he's still home full time with me. So that is a lot. It's just the 2-year-old phase is kind of kicking my butt right now. Um, and yeah, my husband, we met in college, but we dated long distance for a long time. He works in tech. So since 2020, he's been working from home, but he's always kind of been able to work remotely for periods of time. Now he's fully remote. And what else? What do I like to do? I like to read. I love to travel. That's my obsession, which we're
You
going to
read a
talk about.
lot,
I,
right?
yeah, yeah, I'm a
I mean, you
bookworm.
don't think you do. You always
I
wish you could
know it
read
doesn't
more,
feel, yeah,
but
it
you
is.
are a reader for sure. You always have
I'm a
been.
reader. Yeah.
And you sew.
Yes, but I haven't done that for a long time. I kind of
That's
got,
okay. It's still in
yeah,
you. And
yeah.
you used to do ballet and you have taught your daughter's ballet classes too, right? You've worked at
Yes.
the ballet school with
Yeah.
the kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up dancing. I used to dance a lot. And then when my daughter, who's my 9-year-old, when she was young, I taught ballet for several years, um, which, yeah, I don't really do now, but it'll come
But
back
that's okay.
at
Like
some
these are all
point.
just
Right.
I feel like as we go, we just collect, right? Like if we're a bookshelf, these are all like just like books of us.
Mhm.
And they're always there. They're always part of our bookshelf.
I know.
The, the facets.
And it's not just like something that you did one time, it's like part of you,
Yes, always.
It
It
changes
always
who you
stays.
are as experiences that make who you are. And so that always stays a part of you forever.
Yes, which I think like so a lot of moms will talk about something that they were into for a while and then they'll feel bad thinking that they don't do it anymore and they wish they could and I am always like it doesn't go away. Like it's
Yeah.
still there and you're applying those to other areas
Mhm.
now and so yeah, and I do feel like if I just kept going with the one hobby that I started with a long time ago, it would have never opened the doors to all the other hobbies that I do now. I
Yeah.
like it's fine. It's fine to dabble.
And you
So,
can't, there's no way you can do all of the hobbies you've ever done and all the ones that you want to do all at the same time. It's not
right.
possible.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, but they for sure like change who you are. And those experiences, affect you every day in ways you just don't even notice.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. All right. So, because you are the traveling super mom, you inspire me so much with your travels. I love it. So she has done a program called Home Exchange, which I had never heard of until I was asking her, like, oh my gosh, how do you go stay in another country for a whole month? Or even like hop from one country to the next country to the next country for 3 months straight or whatever the time. Like, it's just cool. And she would take her kids all over these cool places. So she was like, oh, we do home exchange. And so she explained a little bit back then to me. So tell us about home exchange program and the other ways that you have found to make the travel that you want to do happen.
Yeah. So I'm obsessed with home exchange. I don't make any, this is not sponsored. I make no money off home exchange. Um, but I'm just obsessed with it. I mean, especially having kids. And now when we travel, like we have 3 kids. We need a house. If we're staying somewhere, maybe 2 nights, maybe we can do a hotel, but it's just not comfortable. It's not comfortable for us to be in a hotel. We need rooms, we need kitchen, we need space, we need somewhere for kids to run around. And so I do love Airbnb, but it's so expensive. So we do home exchange. It is this website where we swap houses with people. It's like the movie The Holiday with Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz, like women of a certain age know that movie, right?
Yeah, exactly. Don't
So
worry,
we
our
swap
demographic
houses.
knows.
Yeah, our demographic knows. So we go swap houses. Like we will go stay, for example, over Christmas, we went to Boston and we stayed in a family's house there in Boston. They came down to Florida. They stayed in our house in Florida. No money's exchanged. I'm on a website that's called homeexchange.com, and I pay like, I think it's $200 for the year for the subscription, but then you can do as many exchanges as you want. And money doesn't change hands. You're just exchanging houses straight across. And now they have a system of points where you can earn points and then you can use points to stay in someone's house if their house is open but they don't want to come to your house. So there's a lot more options now. When we first started out, it was just the straight across swaps only. Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah, because you were telling me how it would be like you would go to maybe like this country, that person would be at this other house, that other house would be at, and so it was not like always right. It's not like you say, oh, I want to go to Italy. I need to find a family there to swap directly with me. I think I seem to remember you were saying there's like some play area within it.
Yeah, especially for people who have like a vacation house or a rental property over spring break. We went to France, and this lovely, lovely man, he owned the apartment next door to his. And so it was open. So on home exchange, we gave him this certain number of points. We stayed in his apartment, got to know him. A family from Canada came and stayed in our house in Florida. And they said they had another family come staying in their house. So it goes across. So for us, we can use these points to stay in someone's house, but then we have someone come stay in our house who's giving us points. So the math all works out somehow.
Yes. Everybody's mind is like exploding right now.
I know. So there's home exchange.
So cool.
I know there's another site that's called People Like Us, I think. I'm not on that one, but I've heard that one's like another great one. Okay. And the company, who owns the website, they do verifications. You have to verify ownership of the house and verify your identity. And they have an insurance policy where if, someone damages something in your house, I mean, first of all, that person is expected to make it right. But if for whatever reason they don't, then the company like Home Exchange will compensate you.
Yeah.
But we've never had a problem with that. Never.
And then do you talk with the families? Like, do you spend time talking to them before you're doing the home exchange? Do you get to know them? They get to know you, that sort of thing? Or
yeah, sometimes we'll jump on a Zoom and chat with people. Sometimes, most of the time, we're just sending messages back and forth. But yeah, we do. And especially coming up to it, we're sending messages about the house and preferences. And we have met with the people beforehand, overlap by a couple hours so that they can show us around the house. But it's just all, people's preferences, whatever works best.
That is really cool. How do you prepare your home for people to stay in it like that while you're gone?
Oh, that is the worst part. I will say that.
Because you're getting ready for a trip, but you're also getting ready to host, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the first time is the hardest because you're trying to tackle those little clutter spots, which isn't necessarily, isn't necessary. Like your house, it's not a hotel and nobody's expecting your house to look like a hotel. And especially we always try to exchange with families because we want people who understand, we try not to have older retired people who clearly have a certain standard that our house is not up to because, we have a 2-year-old, there's like fingerprints, like everywhere.
Yes.
So,
But other families probably love staying there because
right.
if they need a
I
crib, if
get
they
it.
need a high chair, if they
Exactly.
need, baby cups and spoons, all that stuff is
Oh,
already
the
available.
best
So,
thing is when we go stay in a house that's a family with kids and there's all new toys and there's all new books and the backyard is just new and different. It's so much fun for them. They love
yeah.
it. I mean, it really, one of my favorite things with home exchange is like stepping into someone else's life. It's
Yeah.
not just you don't feel like I'm a tourist in the city. You're staying in the tourist zone. You're seeing all the tourist restaurants. You're staying in a neighborhood with everyone around you, the people who live there, and you're stepping into someone's life. I mean, we do a lot of international travel. It is
Mhm.
so cool to see how are people's kitchens set up, in
Yes, I
different countries.
bet.
What is their laundry like? It's so different. Like, what is in their
Um,
cabinets? What kind of food? What is in their fridge? Like,
yeah,
my
I
kids'
never thought
favorite
of
thing
that.
is when we
Yeah.
go abroad and we go to the grocery store for the first time and we will spend 2 hours like looking at everything, buying all kinds of random snacks just to see what they're like.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming into like a different kitchen, a whole different setup, a whole different life. And then you come home and there's things where you're like, I'm gonna do that. Like I'm gonna take that from, this culture and that from this culture. And then there's things where you're like, I miss this. I miss having a dryer.
Yeah,
I miss
instead of
having a
hanging
dishwasher. There's a
everything up.
few
Yeah.
things. Yeah. Where you're like,
Yeah.
no, this I like, this I don't like. It's just so mind broadening.
I bet. And how cool for your kids to get to exist in these other environments. Also, to just
Yeah.
have that perspective of how all the kids of the world are living and how it's the same and how it's different.
Yeah. It's really neat. It's really cool. I mean, in some places we go and we have no car and we're walking everywhere and taking the metro and they just learn to roll with that and see that you stop by the shop on the way home and pick up groceries for that day it and just try on these different lifestyles and I one of the things that I don't know made me so excited when my kids were really young. One thing with traveling with kids very young is people are always like, they're not going to remember this. They're not going to remember that. Why take them on that if they're not going to remember that? And yeah, they're probably not going to remember a lot of the individual experiences, but their minds are expanded. And when my kids would be young and we would go somewhere like, oh, we're going to Georgia. They're like, oh, what language do they speak in Georgia? And it would just like crack me up. But because like we're driving like 5 hours, they're
Georgia,
not
United
speaking another
States, right?
language.
Yeah.
But they're coming from this perspective where they don't expect that everyone speaks English. They don't live in a world where they expect that every place we go is going to be so similar to home. They're coming from a perspective of like understanding there are a million different languages out there and people speak all different languages. So anywhere we go, they're not expecting, oh, it's just going to be the US, it's just going to be English. They're coming from the opposite perspective. And it just made me so happy
Yeah.
that they have a worldview like that.
And I don't know about you, but my kids, there are a lot of trips. We've done so much travel, not international, but in the United States. Um, that year that I came to visit you with Lily before she was even 1 year old, that was one of the reasons I left my job was because travel was something that was really important to us because I have that same thing in my brain that I love new.
Mhm.
And yeah, her first year, we took her on 26 different trips that were on
Yeah.
airplanes. And
Yeah.
so it like, which is a lot to take a little kid when they're that tiny.
Hmm.
But of course, she doesn't remember all of those, but the people who were there remember it.
Yeah.
I remember it.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to look back at the pictures and the videos that I took and share with her, like, hey, I know you don't remember this, or maybe like little tidbits, like that one little thing that was really, really different that stood out, right? And they do latch
Hmm.
onto that. But just sharing, like, hey, this was this experience you had, and they kind of get to relive their
Yeah.
own memory through those photos and videos and like they just get so excited to see like, oh my gosh, and what else did we do? And what else did we do?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um it's
For sure. Yeah.
like
Isn't it
it's like the
fun
preview of
too?
when we're all old, they're gonna do that to us, right?
I know. Exactly.
What else did I do last week?
Did I? I don't remember going there. Did I?
Yeah, right. Yes, Mom, I
Come on.
took you to your appointment, I swear.
Don't you, when they're little, and people are going, "Is this her first flight?" And you're like, "No, it's
like,
like
no,
her 20th
they're
flight."
like, yep, yeah, exactly. But I also love because then when you sit next to the other family and they are like, oh, is this their first flight also? And you're like, no, this is, I don't know, like their 50th or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, okay. And then they just want to know all the secrets and all the tips and the stuff like that. And just telling them like, yeah, like the fact that you're even on this flight with your little baby right now just means that you're going to do amazing things. Like,
Yeah.
You're taking chances already. You're getting over your own obstacles. That's the coolest part is just like encouraging them. Like, yeah, you're already doing amazing.
Like just that encouragement and reassurance. Like, it's going to be fine. Like, yeah, you could totally do this. You got this. You know your kid. Like, you're going to do fine. I think that's the most helpful for people when they're
Yeah.
trying to travel with kids. It's just the encouragement. Like, you got it. You can do it.
And that is what I've also found is like the best advice that you could ever give a new mom or somebody that's new to travel or whatever aspect of parenthood that they're going into that's different is just trust your instincts. Like whatever you think is right is right. We're not going to know everything right away. Like you'll know when you know, and sometimes you'll never know, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I
it's
think
just like
trust
go with
your
what you feel like
instincts.
is right. Don't listen to other people if you don't feel like it.
Yeah. But also like doubt your fears when you're afraid. Like you can like sit with a feeling and tell like, okay, is this like really my gut telling me this is a bad idea? Or is this fear? Is this coming from a place of fear? And when things are coming from a place of fear, I think that's when you really like question. Like would I do this if I wasn't afraid?
Yeah, that's so good. Doubt your fear. So profound. All right. Well, then, you know what? Okay. The next question I was going to ask, I'm going to save it because this is a great transition into that whole mindset piece of it. Is because your superpower is making things happen and being an action taker in these things and like planning the trip that feels really daunting and overwhelming, but you are like, we're doing it. We're going to figure it out. So how do you go about your decisions and getting past your own mental hurdles? Like you were just saying is like doubting, taking that fear and just being like, am I just like holding back because I'm afraid, or is there really a concern here? So what advice would you give to other moms when we start putting our own mental hurdles in our own path with this kind of stuff?
Yeah. Like for travel, really, the best thing is to just get out there and try something. The more that you do it, the more doable you see that it is. It can, or even this is what I do. I just buy the friggin' plane ticket. I buy the ticket and it's like the ticket is bought. We are going. We are gonna have to figure this out piece by piece. But just taking that leap is the first step because you can plan it to death. I mean, you can plan it for 20 years and not feel like you planned for everything. And when the kids are little, you feel like there's 700 things that you need to plan or pack when really there's not. Like, honestly, there's not as much. You don't need to bring as much as you think you need to bring. You don't need to plan as much as you think that you need to plan. You know, I was never a person who could just fly somewhere and not have a place to stay, but there are people who do that, not me. I have a plane ticket, a place to stay, and then the rest like can fall into place. If you do a trip and like you don't get tickets to the certain site, like there are still going to be plenty of amazing things to see and plenty of great experiences to have. Like there are grocery stores everywhere if you get somewhere and like you didn't pack the diapers and you didn't pack wipes. Like you can go to the store, you can get it. It's like taking that plunge and just doing it that teaches you more than anything, more than like
Yes.
any tips that I can give anyone. It's just like get out
Yeah.
there and give it a try, and some things will go badly and most of things will go fine, and then you'll know for next time
Yeah.
how to do better.
And I know with our trips, it's like, I always tell the kids because I have to tell myself is the greatest inconveniences make the best stories later. And so when we're in it, then I just have to remind myself, oh, this is going to be such a good story. This is going to be
We are
such a
gonna
good
laugh
story.
about this so much.
Yes. Like you're stranded, you're this, you're that, uh
Totally.
like I remember there was one trip where like on the way home, we're on a flight back from Michigan. I have awful food poisoning. And I was just like, I can't even take a sip of water or it wants to come back out one of the directions. And I was like, I'm just going to not drink water. I'm just going to close my eyes and try and doze off. And then my kid started feeling not well. And anyways, and so then like Lily, my oldest, she's sitting by the window and she's just like, so, like I'm asleep. My husband's asleep. The kids, like the second one is asleep. She's just like, Mom, I got to go potty. And at the time she's like, 3, she's like potty trained. But barely. And she's like, I gotta go potty. And I'm like, 1 or 2. And she's like, 1. And I'm like, well, can you hold it a little longer? So she's holding it. Finally, she's like, Mom, I can't hold it anymore. And I'm just like, we're not waking up the baby. We're not moving everybody around just for you to go to the potty. And so I took one of the baby's diapers and I was like, shoved it underneath her. I was like, here, just pull your pants down and just go in this diaper in the seat next to the window. And she's like, Mom. But I'm like, this is going to make our life so much easier. Just do it. And then we just put it in a little baggie and I give it to the flight attendant. We're done. Like nobody has to move. Nobody has to wake up. We're in bad shape. But then like the kids think that's the funniest story now. Mom, you remember that one time that you had me go in a diaper in my seat whenever I couldn't get up to go to the bathroom?
And I mean, like, how much resilience do they learn from stuff like that too?
Yes.
Like, just like make it work, like,
Yep.
roll with the punches. Like, that stuff does stick with them. And I mean, it sticks with us, which sometimes we're the ones who get too comfortable and too used to
Yep.
things being easy. And we need to remember, like, I can do hard things. Like, I can handle anything.
I remember when I was pregnant with my first, and I was hanging out with a friend who had just moved back to the States from Germany. Her husband was in the military and she was living in Germany. And she had her first 2 kids. Yeah, she had 2 at the time. Or I don't know, 1 or 2. But she had her kid over in Germany and was raising baby over there, didn't know anybody, met a few other military families, but then she came back to the States and then she was telling me how as soon as she moved back here, she just acquired so many things, like all the gear. And she was saying when she was in Germany, you just put that kid in a sling and you go. And she just has like a bag on her back that's like a diaper, a few wipes, like a little just like one toy, the end. And you go and you just move freely. And she was saying how she's like, just remember every time you go places, like kids are portable. We think they need stuff. They don't. Like you got an arm, you hold the kid in one arm, and you got another arm to go and see the world. And so
it's amazing, like how kids enjoy being out and experiences more than things. I mean, we know that, but we forget. And we think they need entertainment. They need walking through like a brand new city. It's exciting to them too. And they enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's anything travel has taught me, it's like letting go of the things. Like home exchange helps with that. When we went to Hawaii for a whole year, we had to pack up our whole house and really decide, like, do we want to store this for a year? Like, is this worth? And just like getting rid of the things, letting go of the things. That's
now when you lived in Hawaii, you guys were close to the beach or on the beach?
Yeah, we were half a block from the beach.
Yeah. So I remember seeing all your posts where it's just like, we went for a walk to the beach after dinner, or, oh, it's morning and we're just making a quick walk over to the beach. And like that just became, and your kids like really getting the Hawaiian culture and like the way your posts, I noticed over time, it's like you just start to really think the way the Hawaiians think and this state of gratitude at all times. And just like tuning into the land and the whole experience. It was just, I think, the coolest to just see how, because you've done long-term, like a month at a time or longer, but that was probably your longest stay you had done, right? For a whole year somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so it was just so cool how, and even your posts, you would comment about how it's like, a week of like not needing to go anywhere, just go over here to this natural spot that's nearby and just being in your house and just existing and not having to go and see and take in and stuff like that. And it was just for me, it just made me like realize, well, like it made me realize, like, you know what, I'm not going to go somewhere for a whole year right now, but where I am in my own house, in my own yard, like, how can I apply that? How can I take what you're doing in this other place and just be like, you know what, we're going to go and just tune into the natural parts of our own little neighborhood on a regular basis. And it was just so inspiring to see. But yeah, I bet. So did somebody stay in your house during that time?
Yeah, we didn't do a home exchange, but that we actually cleared out our house and rented it to someone here, like on a year-long lease. And then we went to Hawaii and got a year-long lease at a house out there. So we cleared out our house. We put everything in storage. We showed up in Hawaii with like all of these suitcases, still brought too much stuff, even like though I knew I still brought too
Yeah.
much stuff. But like, we had no furniture, we had no car, and just kind of, I mean, we lived lean. We
Yeah.
went to the thrift store and had, you know, just what we needed. And it was such a cool experience to really live with just like what you need. Really,
Yeah.
like as far as possessions go.
Yeah. And then you know that you're going to be moving again in a year and you're not taking any of it
Mhm.
back with you, really, like any little
Yeah.
furniture or anything you acquire. So just knowing that each of those pieces as you go, um, just like this, like, let's be really wise with what we acquire.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you're building a collection for your whole
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything has that intentionality behind it as you go.
Exactly. The intentionality. I love that word.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when we were there, yeah, it really was just, it was the experiences. My husband worked really early hours because he was still working his like Florida based tech job. So he would work really early hours, but then we would have the afternoons open. I homeschooled the kids that year. And so every afternoon it was just like being out somewhere, out at the beach, on trying all, like, let's do all the hikes available. Let's just see every little bit of the island that we can while we're here. And it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
like it wasn't a long term like plan, but I learned so much from it.
Yeah. Holy cow. It's so cool. All right. So tell us about your mom hacks to balance routine structure while traveling or living elsewhere for a while. So I know when I travel, if we're going for a long weekend or we're going for a week, in my mind, I'm constant. Like I've learned that we need every third day. Like if we go somewhere for 10 days, I know that every third day needs to be downtime.
Hmm.
And even though I'm like a new adventure kind of person, I know that not everybody in my family is, and I need to honor that. And so every third day is just like a sit and relax, which has been hard because sometimes I feel like we didn't come all this way just to sit and do nothing. But yes,
I
you do
may say
sometimes.
those exact words to my children sometimes.
I know. I do too, but the day of nothing is needed so
Yeah.
that then you can go back to doing the cool things the other days. Otherwise, everybody's just done by day 4 and 5. And like you can't do all the things you want to do.
Yeah.
Um, so I've
Yeah.
learned certain little rhythms depending on the length of the trip, but a lot of the trips, if it's just like a long weekend, I just throw all routines and structure that we usually have out the window for like, well, you know what? When we get back home, we'll get back into our routines. But then when we did our long camper trips, we did 2 different camper trips for 6 weeks long at a time. And that's when I really realized like, oh, we need structure. We need routines. Like the bookends, right? Every morning needs to have a certain structure to it, and every evening needs to have a certain structure to it. And then that gives you the space to have that freedom during the day and everyone to feel comfortable in these new areas when you know what to expect on those bookends. And so I also realized that the structure we had at home wasn't going to translate to the camper. Like everyone can't just go in their own rooms and have their downtime. We're all in this little space all combined. And so we have to figure out how that works in those kind of spaces. So tell us your hacks, your mom hacks too, when you are living somewhere completely different, what those little routines and structures for the balance looks like. So you guys have that.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any hacks, but I can just talk to my experience.
Tell me how
I
you
mean,
do it. It's going to be a hack for
I
someone.
know. I mean, the thing I had to learn traveling with kids is just like slow it all down. Like when it was just me or me and my husband, and it was like, here's what we're doing today, like all the things exactly, and we're doing this cafe, and we're doing, like fill up those days, do everything you can. Like it just does not work with kids. You're miserable, you're miserable. Like it doesn't work. So slow it down. And that doesn't, I love when we can go and spend 2 weeks to a month somewhere and like do it like really slow. That's not always possible, obviously. But even if we can just go somewhere for a short term, like pick like what are the things we absolutely want to see or do, and then just like don't have any expectations about the rest. Just do it slow. Like hit a few things and then just walk in a park, like get food and bring it back to the house, and just slow it all down because yeah, everyone's too miserable. I try not to stress about sleep because it's just too unpredictable. It's especially if you're traveling a bunch of time zones at once, like doing a big time zone jump, it's so hard to know what kids especially are going to do with sleep, or even you. So you just have to like bake in a lot of time for, maybe we're going to have to go to bed early and wake up early. Maybe we're going to be going to bed late and waking up late, and just having flexibility to those sleep rhythms, because you're not going to know ahead of time how
So
everyone's going to
like building in
react.
buffer days, probably.
Buffer days and buffer times, not scheduling things for 9 a.m. or scheduling things for 8 p.m., at least not the first couple days until you know how it's all going to play out.
Hmm.
um, yeah. And then just, I think traveling, I mean, it's kind of all the same theme, but traveling with less, like less is more, just all the way. Kids don't, they can wear clothes more than once, and when we're staying in a house, like gold star if we can have a washing machine and we can just pack like a few outfits. And I actually am really, really strategic about the clothes that I don't let the kids pack, because I have to go and lay out, like make sure they're not like throwing in
Hmm.
pants that are not going to go with things, or like just inappropriate clothes, and just being super strategic and laying everything out and make sure everything goes with everything so that we can pack light.
Yeah.
Um,
I do lots of patterns and dark
yes.
colors. And that way also we can all wash it all together. Because at
Yeah.
home it gets all separated out.
Right.
But
I
yeah.
know. And you don't know what the washing machine or the soap even, is
Yeah.
going to be like, or do to your clothes. So I
Yes.
actually just like a couple of days ago, my like Christmas wish was I wanted to go buy a travel capsule wardrobe, like just if like a few key items that are like, these are my travel clothes. Every time we travel, like comfortable, dark colors, like the right fabrics and things that I
Hmm.
can wear just mainly when I travel. Um,
Yes. And I've
yeah,
learned for myself, I have all my things I love at home, but those aren't necessarily things that dry very quickly.
right.
If I hang dry them, and so when we travel, I've learned, athleisure and stuff like that, it dries very quickly if you hang it up to dry, and it usually doesn't get too busted up if you wash it in a washing machine that's really agitating. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I've kind of learned some of that stuff. And like the kids' clothes, it's like just stick with all the Target stuff. You wash it, you dry it, it stays the same forever.
I know. I love jewelry. I love jewelry. I never wear jewelry when I travel. It's not comfortable. It's not practical. Who wants to like pack all of that? So I just end up like, I never bring any of it when I travel.
Yeah, and I've even learned like taking makeup. The only
Hmm.
time I end up actually putting it on is if I'm going to a trip where it's just me, like business
Yeah.
events or a girls' weekend or something. Whenever it's a family trip or even like camping, right? Like, of course,
Yeah.
camping, I'm not going to be putting it on, but even camping, I always think for some reason I'm going to put on earrings while I'm
Yeah.
camping. Like, I don't know why I think that, but um,
No, I know. Over the summer, we did a big trip. We went to London, then we went to South Africa, and we went to Zimbabwe. I went and I had my eyelashes. It's like they call it like a perm. It's like they like perm your eyelashes up and then dye them dark. And I was like, I'm not wearing any makeup this whole trip. Like I had a little bit of like eyelash lift and color, and that was it. I did not, I think I probably packed a mascara, did not look at it the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know other moms that get their lashes done or their
Yeah.
eyebrows tinted or whatever right before
Yeah.
going on a trip. So that way it's almost like they already have their makeup on. They don't even have to think about it the entire time.
Yeah.
So
Like
yeah, I
simplify,
almost feel like
simplify.
most of the time when I'm going somewhere, I'm wearing a hat and sunglasses
Yeah.
every single day.
I know.
So it
I
doesn't,
know. Any like illusions I had of like, I'm going to go to Paris and I'm going to look so chic and cool. Like it just does not happen. Even if I try, it's not happening. So
yeah.
I just gave up on that.
You know
I
what
mean,
though? A baseball cap is super chic too.
yeah, they look good.
uh, um, Yeah, but the gear that has become something for us where we have just learned that sometimes when you travel, your kids are amazing on the plane and getting on and off the planes. They're actually so adaptable and so great. And then you got to manage the gear like it's a whole
Yes.
nother kid that you're like,
Yes.
dang it, I just feel like ditching this right here on the
Yeah.
conveyor belt because I'm over it.
Yeah.
And then and so I have
100%.
like a notepad. I don't know if you do this, but I nerd out. I have a notepad in my phone that I'd do like a review and I'll be like, for next time, like next
Yeah.
time I go to a cold place,
Yes.
next time I go to a hot place, next time I am traveling this duration, I write myself little notes of what I learned from that trip. And then I'll like look back and actually we're about to go on a big trip to Mexico with the kids. And I was looking back at at the notes I had from the last time we went to that exact same place. Like, okay, what was the things I wanted to remind myself? Because by now it's been a few years and I forget all the stuff that my previous self was super wise to teach my current self.
Yeah, my
So
husband and I always like end up again, there's like a word that my brain is not coming up with, but after a trip or at the very end of a trip, like we just kind of like download all like what
the
went well.
debrief.
The
Yeah.
debrief. There we go. There we go. That is the word I was looking for. And we
Yes.
debrief
The
like what
debrief.
went well, what didn't go well, what would we have changed, what would we do better? It's just like really cool to talk it out and hear different perspectives.
Yeah. And like the kids, it's like you've seen those reels online where the guy is talking about this like extravagant weekend that they had with the kids and theme park and blah blah blah. And they asked the kid when he gets back, like, what was your favorite part? And he was like, the elevator at the hotel.
Totally right. I will
We
say
went to
it's
Maine and we went to all these lighthouses and lobster catching, blah, blah, all this stuff, right?
uh
My kids were so dang excited about this park that was full of clover because we don't have clover in
oh
Arizona and
no,
going and looking
yeah.
for 4-leaf clovers. And my daughter found a 4-leaf clover and we saved it, but they still were like,
Yeah.
where was that place that we went with all the clover? And I'm like, and also the lighthouses. You guys
And
remember the
also
lighthouses?
all the other amazing things that we paid to do.
Yeah.
But I
Um,
mean, yeah, that's like why just slowing it down is so valuable because when you're too rushed, you miss those little moments.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, we like to just make again in the notepad on my phone. I'll just kind of do a little bit of research ahead of time to see what are some of the interesting places that if it fits in the schedule or if
Yeah.
we have the time and energy for it, just kind of making a little idea list to go off of. And then if we find ourselves with an afternoon and we're like, okay, here, let's pull up the list. And then we vote on it or we kind of talk it out and then everyone will pick one and we go and do that. And so and before, like you're saying, whenever before kids, we have our itinerary that we follow. And even still, when I go with my husband, I'll still be like, I definitely got to see this museum and I definitely want to see this landmark. But with the kids, I'll just have the idea list
Mhm.
and know that, like, you know what, they are probably going to come back here in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And so they'll hit up the rest and maybe we'll all come back here and they'll hit up the rest. And so and it's also fine to just look at them through pictures on the internet, even though we were
Yeah.
right there. Like that's okay too.
Yeah, totally. It's really fun that my older kids are now at the age where they can appreciate the history of places and the museums and that sort of thing. It's like getting me really excited, especially my 12-year-old Levi. He's starting to really get interested in history. And that's like so much fun. So much fun to try. I was like, he's taking world history this year in 6th grade, and he's getting really into these ancient civilizations. And like, if there is a place that you want to go because you love the history, like you tell me, we are going to make it happen. It makes
Yes.
me really excited. So
Yeah,
they
my
get
kids were
there.
learning about like Great Wall of China and these places,
Hmm.
and they're like, "Can we go there someday?" And I'm like, "Put it on the list. We'll go. Put it on the
Yeah,
list."
we'll do it. We'll do it. And it's really fun to prep your kids before you go somewhere by reading books. And there will be fun, fiction books set in different places around the world. It might take some research to find the good ones,
Yes.
but to get them like kind of prepped and excited by reading or movies or cartoons, that sort of thing, to kind of get their head like there.
Yeah, preparing. I swear there's a magic treehouse book for just
Hmm.
about everywhere in the
Right?
world. So yeah, it's like, okay, if you're
Hmm.
going there, look and see if there's a magic treehouse about it.
Yeah.
And it's through the eyes of a kid and also through the world of adventure and history. And
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah, and
love
then
that.
it sticks for them a little better too when they have a little bit of background information.
Yes. So my middle son is he is like that tiny old man. He's tiny Elon Musk. He like doesn't like surprises. He needs a
Hmm.
structure.
Hmm.
So I have learned that when we're traveling, once we have things all kind of, it's like you're saying, like you book the ticket and now it's on the calendar. And then as you get closer, then it's like, okay, this is where we're staying and this is what the weather is going to be like. And more and more details start falling into place. And so as I um start looking all these kind of things up, I'll actually make like a Pinterest folder for myself and
Hmm.
I'll look up YouTube videos. And so for him, especially, my oldest, she's like, she wants to be surprised. She's like, I don't want to
Yeah.
see it. I want it to be a surprise when I get there. So
Yeah.
she loves like the discovery aspect of it, which I do too. But
Yeah.
I recognize that he doesn't function well whenever it's just too many things thrown at him. He gets really overwhelmed, overstimulated. So we'll go and we'll look up things online and we'll look up the pictures. We'll look up the weather together. He loves looking up like the coordinates of like longitude and latitude.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
wants to like know everything about it before he gets there.
Yeah.
And so we'll look up those YouTube videos where it's the travelers that go places as like a review. And
Yeah.
they'll even show, like if you're staying at a certain type of a resort or a hotel, what the breakfast buffet looks like, what the water
Yeah.
slides look like. If we're staying at an Airbnb that doesn't have that about where we're staying, I'll at least, look up the videos of the things around the town and the things to
Hmm.
do. Cause even if we don't do them, it still shows the
Yeah.
landscape and the different aspects. So we will look that kind of stuff up for him. And it really does help him because then when we're there, like we're driving through Savannah, Georgia and Tybee Island, and he's like, Mom, it's those big trees. Remember how you were telling me that they're hundreds of years old? And oh, what was that
Yeah.
stuff that hangs from them? Oh, the Spanish moss, like so we'll go and we'll kind of do a little research about geographic features
Yeah.
and just or even the big buildings like we're going to be driving past these old churches and just kind of looking up the Wikipedia page on them ahead of time. Because then once you're there,
Yeah.
then you can just keep going. You don't have to keep looking things up or,
Yeah.
like stopping and reading everything. They already kind of have like the cliff notes as they go. So
Hmm.
we've learned that. He's a
Yeah.
much better traveler. And so for anybody who has a kid that's like that, they it is like you were saying, it's like by doing it, you get better at it and you know what to expect. And so he is a kid that he does not like to travel, but I refuse to accept that because
Yeah.
I don't want him to turn into an adult that also doesn't ever travel
Mhm.
just because it gets him out of his comfort zone. And so I find ways to make it possible now because now he's like has this idea that like, oh, is this place going to be like that other place that we went to? I said, yeah, real similar. So then to him,
Yeah.
he already feels like, okay, I can do it.
Oh, I think you're so right. And, travel is possible for everyone. There's a million different reasons that can make it hard for certain individual families. Um, but you can make it happen. And there is so much value in just expanding your mind and having new experiences and going through discomfort, especially with your small kids. You don't want to put them through too much discomfort, but some amount of discomfort is so healthy and good for them. And so good, such a good learning experience and for us too. But setting
Yeah.
expectations can really help. Even my kids, They like new things, they got some of my genes. So they like the new experiences. They don't mind getting surprised. But even on days where we're having a big travel day, we all sit down and like, tomorrow is just a travel day. Tomorrow is not a fun day. Tomorrow is a hard day. And just setting those expectations. We are going to get up early. We are going to be at the airport. We're going to be sitting on an airplane. That all sucks. It's all really boring. Quite honestly, I don't want to hear you guys telling me this is boring. This is boring. This is boring. I know it's boring. It's boring for me too. It's just tomorrow's a boring day. But once we get through the boring day, then we're going to go have some fun. You know what we'll do the first day? This is something we can do the first day that will be fun for everyone. So endure the boring day and we'll have a lot of fun on the other end.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, like the pep talks and
Yeah.
just setting the expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do like that a lot.
Yeah. And learning too, for all of us, that sometimes you have to go through like the hard stuff to get the bigger reward on the end.
Yeah, I heard a quote this past weekend that was like, when you're in the pain and just asking yourself, like, do you even need to get rid of this?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
we always want to get rid of whatever the hard thing is. Like,
Yeah.
do you have to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
part of it.
one of the best pieces of advice that you gave me when my firstborn was almost a year old and I had just left my corporate finance job, that I was really good at and I really did enjoy. And I had been extensively trained in. I had to get several certifications to be able to speak about investments with shareholders and brokers. And I had transitioned to being a stay-at-home mom so I could spend more quality time with my kid and husband, and not just get like the little tidbits in the evenings, because I was working New York Stock Exchange hours from Arizona. And you had also left a similarly important position as an attorney, to be home with your firstborn, and yours was older than mine. And I was asking for advice about this transition, and you told me how you loved that you got to share that wisdom and that expertise, all those years of expertise that you had gained, and how you got to share it with the little person that would matter the most in the world. And how the change that you could affect on him, how it was like, that's so much greater than all those other people that you were working with. And how we think it's like, well, I'm wasting all this expertise, all these things I'm trained on. I'm wasting it. I'm no longer using it whenever I become a stay-at-home mom or when I transition into something that no longer uses that. And you told me, but no, you get to use that on this little person that will turn into a big person who will then affect the change on the world, and how you're not wasting it all, how you're actually using that expertise through your parenting. And so while of course you're not an attorney to your kid, but you're using that perspective that you have and the way you look at the world and the way you look at other people. I believe you were like in the public defender's office, I think it was. And so just seeing, it's like that brilliant way that you got to see the good in other people. Like, this person made a bad choice, but they're not a bad person. And you sharing that with your kid. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like, well, I'm not going to go teach my 1-year-old how to invest in the stock market. I do have this great perspective about how the whole world works and how this affects this other area. And while things on the other world, we don't realize it, they're affecting everything that's happening right here. And we don't have to live in a bubble. And so it does really play into your parenting ability. And it was just one of the best pieces of advice that I got during that transition. But it also has helped me now in transitioning to becoming an entrepreneur, because I have now been on like school number 2, like my second area that I've put a lot of schooling and gained a lot of knowledge in is the area of self-development and personal development. And I've read so many books. I read about like 70 to 90 books a year, all of them nonfiction. And so I've just learned so much over the years since I've been a stay-at-home mom. And I would always, like, every time moms are struggling and I have conversations with them, I would refer them to like, oh, you should read this book. Oh, have you listened to this podcast? Oh, like, go here, go here, go here, for all these little bits of information that helped me. But I started to realize that, like, what, instead of referring everybody to all these other places, like, what is it that I already have that I can give to these people who I care about most? which is all my fellow moms. And so that was something that's helped me move into this transition now of being an entrepreneur, is sharing my own personal development wisdom, my mom hacks, that kind of expertise with all these people who I know that I can affect the change in by truly sharing that with them instead of, just like keeping it to myself. So I know there's a lot of moms in our community and a lot of moms listening to this podcast who are either considering shaking things up and changing something major in their life, whether it's they go from working to not working, or they go from being a stay-at-home mom to starting their own business, or going and getting a job as their kids get a little older, or whatever that is. There's a lot of moms who feel a calling for more, and they have this crazy transition time in their life. And so that piece of advice was so helpful to me back then, which we were talking before we went live, how you didn't even remember that conversation.
Even saying that. No.
Which is a lot of times how it goes. Like sometimes we just say things from our heart and we don't realize just what a big impact it makes in somebody else's life. And so that's been something that's guided me all these years that you didn't even know. So I would say, what advice would you give around this further to any mom going through a transition, and how what we're trained in can be used differently? And like now you're back to using your skills as an attorney, but in a new way, and in a way that you can put clear boundaries around. And so you've gotten to share all this amazing perspective with your kids, but now you're also getting to share that with all these other people in the legal system. So yeah, give us your wisdom around that.
I don't know if it's wisdom, but yeah. I just think, we talk so much about how life is so short, but like really life is so long. Like there is a lot of life left to live. And we kind of get in this mindset when we're young of like, I'm going to graduate high school, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to have this career, and then I'm going to be a mom. Period. Like that's the end. And how old are we? Like we still have hopefully more than half our lives to live. And there's so much more experience out there for us, so much more life that we're going to live and we just don't even know about. So I think we just need to not get so hung up thinking that what's happening now is just the end all be all. Who knows where life is going to take us, and everything that we learn and everything we experience everywhere we go, it stays with us and it changes us and it makes us who we are, and we use all that in the next step one way or another. And there's so many steps after just the next step. We've all got like a lot more to live.
I love that so much. And it's true. Life is so long. I love Frank Lloyd Wright. There's Taliesin West up here up in Phoenix, just a little bit up from where I live. And I love going there because it's such a great example of, here's this man who kind of had he had his architecture career already, but when he moved to Arizona, when he was 77 years old, that's whenever like he really hit his stride. Mm-hmm. And I think to myself, like, okay, when I'm 77, then I'm going to start a whole brand new thing.
Yeah.
That is what is going to be, I'll be known for that. I got plenty of time until then.
Totally. We went to this place. We were in Mexico City in November. It's amazing. Loved Mexico City. And we went to this big museum building that Diego Rivera built. And they were like, the influences on Diego Rivera were like ancient Aztec culture, Frank Lloyd Wright, and I'm missing the other one. What's the Empire State Building? What's that style? Art Deco. Mm-hmm. Frank Lloyd Wright, ancient Aztec culture. Like everything we learned that all like gets put together, and he made this like insanely beautiful, incredible building with all these influences of all the things he's loved and learned through his life. And we're all like that.
Yeah.
Bring it all together, even when we're 77. It all comes together.
And the Frank Lloyd Wright that he got inspired by was probably the version from 77 to 90, whatever he lived to. You know, there
Yeah.
was like this 20-year period at the end of his life, but it was really the beginning of the part of him that we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like in our 40s and we feel like our careers are over and we're just a mom and we've got so much still to give.
Oh yeah, there's like 3 more lifetimes
Yeah.
still that we're going to be living with all the things that we're gathering right now. Yeah. So good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I already knew a lot of this, but there was so much I didn't know that I learned so much. So it's really motivated me now
Oh
to
my
like
gosh, I
kind of.
got on this like, what am I even going to talk about? I don't have anything to say. I don't have advice to give to people. So I'm just glad that I had enough things to say to fill a whole hour. Thank you guys
This
for
is the thing
listening.
though.
Hopefully it was good.
We get so used to seeing TED Talks or listening to other podcasts and all these other things, and we don't realize the wisdom that lies within us that is like really uniquely ours that could help other people. And this has been the common thread, like every mom I interview, and for some of you guys, I have reached out to you guys multiple times to be like, please, can I please talk to you, because I want to share your thing. And you're like, but is it really a thing anyone wants to hear? And I'm like, yes, it is, please.
Yeah.
So if I'm still hounding you, know that I see your superpower and I really want to share it with the
And
world.
know that the
And
rest of us feel the same way as you do. None of
yep,
us feel
exactly.
like super moms. We just feel like we're just struggling to get by.
This is the thing. So I use the word super mom a lot, and I get a lot of resistance from people. They're like, I hate that word. I hate that word super mom. And the part of it that um I like it because it challenges us. Like people don't like it because they feel like, oh, there's all this pressure to be a super mom. And I don't like that word because it's just putting more pressure on moms to be this thing. And what I like about using that term is we are all already super moms. We just don't realize our superpower. And so that's why I love these conversations, because it uncovers that and you get to really see like, oh, I guess this is something I'm good at. And for everybody who's listening, they start to realize like, oh yeah, like this is like jogging my memory of other things that I've done that I guess isn't so ordinary. And so we really just see all the extraordinary pieces of ourselves. And so while people hate the word super mom, I love it because it's not anything that we are trying to be. It's something we already are. And we just have to
Yeah.
have it pointed out to us.
Yeah.
So to all this fellow super moms out there, which is everyone, every mom is a super mom. So to all of you, thank you so much for joining us today. And Yvette, thank you so much for coming on. We for sure will have to do the follow-up episode, the trifecta, you, me, and Mariana.
Oh
To
my
have the
gosh.
reunion, the high
That
school
would be
reunion. It'll be so
so
fun.
fun. That would be, and
So we'll plan
we
that. It'll
gotta
be
pull out
good.
like a old school picture too from the 90s, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to find that's why I got to pull out like a scanner because they're all
I
like
know.
printed.
I
Kids these
know.
days don't even know what that is. Well, awesome. All right. Well, for everybody else out there, have an amazing week and we'll see you next time on Supermom Sessions. Bye bye.